Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of I Hate Your Taste in Movies. This is a movie podcast where we force our friends to watch our favorite movies and test our friendship severely. You can follow us on Twitter at I Hate Your Taste and on Instagram at Hate Your Taste Pod. I'm Jackie.
I'm Jen.
I'm Austin.
And today, dear listeners, you are in for a treat because Jackie chose the movie and it's the best movie of all time. And it's the one movie I've seen the most over and over and over again. Today we're talking about Die Hard.
This is the day you've been waiting for.
I know. I wish this was a video podcast because I am freaking out. I'm so excited and I am so nervous because I already know people will have opinions. That's just in general. But I also know one person in particular is going to have negative feelings. I don't know if I can handle it.
That'd be nice. I'll be gentle.
You have to be. I'm just warning you right now. If I end up crying, I'm going to put a real damper on my evening/life. I can't handle it right now.
Okay, I have to bank up some goodwill for future movies, so.
Right? I'll remember. It's like an exchange of friendometer points.
Yeah.
I'll just say a little bit about this movie, i.e. what it means to me. It means everything to me.
I'm sorry. You're so excited already. Are you gonna be okay?
My face is so red. I'm so excited. I will be okay, depending on how nice you guys are to me. But you know what? At the end of the day, I have Die Hard, so I will be okay. Die Hard was like my favorite movie since a long time ago. Before it became cool to like Die Hard, I was like a Die Hard originator, okay? Just FYI. I'm not one of these last 20 years Die Hard lovers, okay? Just stop laughing at me so hard.
Sorry.
I probably saw Die Hard soon after it came out, although I would be a very young child at that point, and I do not want to discuss what age I would have been in 1988. Leave that to die, please. But I saw it at a very young age. I must have been under 10. So just let's leave it at that. No one needs to do math. Okay, this is not a math podcast.
It's not, but we're so good at it.
We're so good. And I don't know. I had an immediate fascination. I could not rip my eyes off the screen. It was the first thing I'd ever seen like it. Probably one of the first action movies I saw. Definitely had some feelings about such a good-looking man blowing things up. And it probably is deeply ingrained in my psyche now about things I consider attractive. Probably just Die Hard is the blueprint. But I don't know. I loved it. I've seen it at least twice a year, every year of my life now, since that point, sometimes more. I use it as a litmus test for men and friends. Austin, I'm looking at you. And I've never loved a movie the way I love this movie. I'm not generally a fangirl about movies. I'm like, yeah, movie, and then I kind of forget it exists. But Die Hard is my staple. The entire Die Hard franchise, except the fifth movie, which didn't really exist, we're ignoring that. But the 1 to 4, watched them all hundreds of times. I love Die Hard.
So you like this movie then?
So I don't know if it's being clear, but it's like, it's all right.
Jen, what about you?
Yeah, so I don't have the same history with the movie as Jackie, obviously, because no one on Earth does. Like, I don't think Bruce Willis loves this movie as much as she loves this movie.
That breaks my heart.
I did see it probably for the first time when I was pretty young. A lot of Jackie's, like, 90s action movie picks are the kind of movies that I watched a lot as a kid when they were on TV, because they're the greatest movies. You could just drop in at any time and pick it up. So if it's on TV and you're like 9 and you like want something to do and you're bored, you just watch Die Hard for an hour. Great. So I've seen it quite a bit. Last time I watched it was, I think, last year or the year before at Christmas. So I'm on board with Die Hard as a Christmas movie. But I will say, this is just a little bit of forewarning for Jackie. One thing I do remember, after having watched it recently as an adult, is thinking that it does have, even though it's a great action movie and it's a fun time, it's a little regressive on the gender politics. And then as I rewatched it this time, I was like, oh yes, it is quite regressive in that regard. So that was the critical thought I remembered from having seen it before.
You know, we might have to call this, for me specifically, the True Lies effect.
Yes.
Where I just forgive movies I saw in my childhood and do not question them.
Yeah.
Right. Also, part of the True Lies effect is that when people call out issues, my initial instinct is to defend it. So it might get messy.
Yeah, I predict you being angry about this. That's why I was like, I'm gonna let you know up at the top. I like the movie. I enjoy it. I have some problems with it. Prepare yourself
I don't
accordingly.
I don't think
And
I
then
can.
we can move on to Austin and what her idea of the world of Die Hard was.
My
Yeah.
well, I do live in the world, so I was aware of Die Hard. It's just not a movie that I've ever seen. I don't really have any reason for it. I've seen a couple of scenes the past, I think last Christmas I tried to watch it and then I got bored and so I turned it off. Or I got tired. Maybe it was on too late. That sounds more like me, to be honest. But I've just never made it all the way through it. You know, I feel like I've joined an important part. I've reached an important milestone now in my life. A lot of pop culture references make a lot more sense now. I feel like I understand Jake Peralta better.
I was gonna say, now Brooklyn Nine-Nine makes so much sense.
Yep. Yeah, I have a little summary guess. I mean, it's not much of a guess, but I'll read what I wrote. I wrote, terrorist Alan Rickman holds someone hostage in Nakatomi Plaza during a company's Christmas party on Christmas Eve, and John McClane has to stop him and save everyone. Lots of boring gunfights ensue. Alan Rickman has a funny accent, and Carl Winslow's there. Assuming John McClane's a police officer who is not attentive to his family because that's how these work. Yippee-ki-yay, motherfucker.
That is brava. That's
Yeah.
quite
I mean,
spot
I
on.
knew what it was.
Although, do you guys think of Reginald Bell Johnson as Carl Winslow?
Yes.
Yes.
Because in my head, he's Al Powell for life.
And he's Carl
I will
Winslow.
say, like, my Zoom chat name is Carl Winslow, and in my notes, I called him Officer Carl Winslow the whole time.
Yeah.
So,
I never caught his character name. He's
yeah, you
Al
just said it was
Powell.
Powell? Yeah,
Al Powell. Sergeant.
Carl Winslow.
Yeah, that's all I hear.
It's all about the first character you see Reginald Bell Johnson playing. He'll always be Al Powell.
So I feel like I basically just did a summary of the movie.
Yeah.
You did. You did a great summary of the movie. I mean, I guess I'll do a quick, real general one.
Is this going to be quick, or is this going to be Jackie talking about Die Hard quick?
It's going to be as quick as I can make it. I mean,
All right, I'll check back in an hour and see if you're
Yeah,
done.
I'm just gonna check my
Great.
email and
all I've got to the point where he meets Argyle. All right, so it's Die Hard. If you haven't seen Die Hard, stop the podcast, watch Die Hard, then watch Die Hard 2, then 3, then 4, and then don't watch 5, and then come back. So the summary of Die Hard is exactly what everyone knows it to be. John McClane is an off-duty New York police officer. His family has moved to LA. He's visiting them for the Christmas season, having marital troubles. He goes to Holly Gennaro, his wife's Christmas party at the Nakatomi Plaza. They're on the 30th floor. As they're partying, Hans Gruber and his henchmen from the Volksfrei movement, so we think, arrive and they take everyone hostage. They're acting like they're terrorists, but they're actually just there to rob the safe. They want to break the safe, steal $640 million worth of negotiable bearer bonds, and escape. So it's John McClane versus, this is where it gets dicey. It's actually 13 terrorists, but all the posters say 12. So it's him against 12 or 13 terrorists, whatever you want to say. And he's got to take them out one by one. He's running around the building, setting traps. Unfortunately, he's barefoot and he's not wearing a shirt. Thank you for whoever made that decision. And yeah, he's got to one at a time kind of take him out, save his wife, save the day, blow shit up. Die Hard. That's my summary. Did I miss anything?
No, that was great. I heard you like stop yourself when you were like, oh, they say it's 12, but really it's 13. I'm like, she wants to give details on that. I mean, the henchmen are a little interchangeable, give or take 1 or 2, where I was sort of not even clear how many there were.
yeah, I didn't know how many there were at all. I was like, I
could
assumed
probably-
he killed them all.
I could probably tell you how each of them died too.
You
We're not gonna get
could.
into
I'm
that.
sure you could.
Well, let's get into it, I guess.
I'll start us off by saying I am exactly like John McClane when I fly. I am not a good flyer. I'm clenching the seats. So that was good. It was relatable.
I will tell you that I've tried the take off your shoes and socks and put your feet on the carpet and make this with your toes.
Yeah.
It is nice. Feels good on your feet, but I don't think it cures jet lag.
Yeah, I did have questions about that random businessman's advice of the making a fist with your toes, where I'm like, who does that? Why
He's
would
obviously
you do that?
a frequent flyer, so he knows how to like de-stress, and even when John does it, he's like, this with your toes. Like, who'd have thought? It totally works. It kind of makes sense to me too, because if you follow me on this one, flying is actually really hard on your extremities with gravity and the stasis of the blood in your legs. So moving and making fists with your toes would be good for your circulation and clearing out any little small blood clots that have formed.
Mm.
So it's a good practice. I don't know if it has any other benefits. Like he seemed like relaxed after, but I don't really, I mean, his relaxation didn't last long.
Yeah.
Because he immediately got shot at, but it worked. I did. When I flew to Australia, I made this with my toes and I was like, yeah, this is nice.
All right.
I don't hate it.
All right.
Didn't
I
cure
was
anything.
fully ready to call it nonsense, but if you vouch for it, I was like, this is just the flimsiest excuse for why he takes his shoes off later so that he's barefoot.
I'd rather they had talked about blood clots while flying because it is a major concern, but that's not quite as interesting and you'd have to get really into it. But yeah, he's a terrible flyer. And then the whole flight and his arrival in the LAX airport is just to show that he's a tough New Yorker. He doesn't have any kind of tolerance for this California nonsense where he's just walking around being like, oh, California.
He's carrying the ugliest stuffed animal I've ever seen in my life.
It's true. It has kind of beady eyes, but it looks more like a bear than bears nowadays.
I suppose, yeah, it looks like a real bear. But at first I was like, is that a stuffed beaver? Like, what is that? It was weird.
Also, like, he had one giant stuffed bear, right? But he has 2 kids?
Rude. Clearly he has a favorite kid.
Yeah. It's like, do they have to share it?
He obviously had like a Nintendo or something in his bag.
All right. He better.
Also, did you guys notice the Rod Stewart lookalike in the background at the airport?
Amazing. Half the terrorists also look like Rod Stewart. So this movie is all about Rod Stewart lookalikes.
Is that just how men looked in the 80s?
That's still how Rod Stewart looks, but yeah.
Yeah.
Can you imagine if he's just like, yeah, I want to be in this movie. I'll just walk past the background.
Yeah. He's
No one
like,
has to know.
yeah. So he's walking to his driver
respect
before
him.
he meets Argyle. Just Rod Stewart in the back.
Rod Stewart would totally get a driver too. This totally checks out.
Maybe Rod Stewart was just at LAX that day.
It's very possible.
Okay, so 1 minute of the movie has passed, and we've talked about it for 6 minutes.
But did
So
you think we'd be
this-
talking about Rod Stewart tonight?
Didn't?
No.
Don't hate it. Not upset about it. Not angry. But so he lands in LAX. Brusque New York detective, heart of gold, meets his driver Argyle.
He is my worst nightmare in a driver of any kind.
Argyle, I have conflicted feelings about him because he's an exposition machine.
Yes.
Yes.
He's just like, I will force you to tell me these things because we need the viewer to know these things.
Yeah, he's like, so tell me about your problems with your wife. And it's
Right?
like, okay, we need to get that out of the way. But then also, like, it's John McClane's fault for sitting in the front seat with his limo driver. Like, the guy's gonna make conversation. If
Yeah.
you wanted silence, get in the back.
Yeah. I feel like no one would sit in the front in any way. Just like, unless the back was full of scorpions, you're sitting in the back of the limo. Everyone knows that's where you're supposed to sit.
But it's like you said with the fish out of water, tough New York guy, no time for this nonsense. It's that same thing where he's like, I'm not some hoity-toity rich guy who needs to get in the back of a limo. I'm gonna sit up front and talk to the driver.
So why did they bring a limo? Like, why? They could have just had a nice town car or something, right?
If you think about it, it's kind of a power play by Takagi. Holly
Ah.
didn't send a limo, Takagi did. He wants to basically show off Holly and her position in his important company and how rich he is. Not like in an aggressive way, but it's almost like he wants to help Holly and be like, look, see, she's successful and it's worth it that she's here and all these things. I think he probably
Yeah.
has an inkling about how hard it's been on Holly and her marriage.
Hmm.
And he's just a generally good dude. Takagi's great.
Yeah, like I think I got the same kind of idea where it's almost like he's trying to wine and dine John to be like, look, things are great here. Look at all the success and money. You could have a part of this too if you just stopped being so stubborn and moved with your wife to LA. And he was like, wife having a job? What's this about?
So bad.
We're just
And-
getting right into it.
Enter
Yeah.
the gender politics.
Sorry, I'm sorry. I mean,
Can I ask one question though?
She uses her own name, which is obviously disgusting and horrible as a woman. Why would she ever even think of doing that?
Okay. Speaking of that, that's not her legal name. She took his name when they were married, and they're not divorced. So technically, that's not her name. I wouldn't expect her to start using her maiden name unless they got divorced. That's one thing. Second of all, here's where I get defensive already.
Yeah.
We're clearly showing that John didn't support Holly and expected her to come running back to him when she failed at her job. That is not good. I do not respect that.
Not a great
So
look.
we're on the same page.
Yeah.
But I do find that it was ahead of its time in the way where it showed Holly not giving a shit, kicking ass at her job, never apologizing. And in the end, he came to the realization that he should have supported her more. and they both grew.
Yes.
I
So it's
somewhat
good.
agree. Here's where I disagree, which again, we're just getting right into it again. So I agree with you in the sense that she's there, she's doing great at her job, she's going by Holly Gennaro, she's like, fuck you, if you don't want to support me, I don't need you. And he's like, oh shit, I fucked up, I do need you, I'm gonna make this up to you. So there's growth there, but then the movie actually ends with her losing the Rolex that she got for being a good employee. That has to drop to the ground because that's what's literally killing her. And then she goes outside and someone's like, oh, Miss Gennaro, and she's like, actually, it's Holly McClane. So it's still it ending with the sort of quote unquote compromise of him being like, I accept that you have your job, and her saying, yes, but my role as wife is always most important. So I'm like, it's not loving that.
See, I didn't get that vibe at the end. Like the watch, I kind of think is nothing. She'll get another watch, they'll buy her a new one. They'll be like, here's the world's biggest Rolex for saving everyone who works at our company. Holly basically took charge. So she gets a new Rolex. It just had to be a moment where there's tension between Hans and John before he falls.
I get that, but it was literally like the Rolex is the symbol of her career and her success, and that was the one thing that was going to pull her down to her death, and then they had to get rid of it. That's the one thing that Hans grabbed onto. He didn't grab onto her, he grabbed onto her Rolex.
Okay,
and
I just think you're reading too much into that.
And throw it to the ground. Oh my god. I was like, of course. She worked hard for that Rolex. She deserved it.
It's literally just Hans hanging off the side of the building device. They've even mentioned that she got the Rolex to set up the fact that he will be hanging from it later. It's not even about her success. It's so that he may hang off her arm. That's it. The watch means nothing.
It is symbolism, Jackie.
It isn't. You're imbuing it with symbolism, and it doesn't exist. Good try, though. Rejected. Now, in terms of her saying her name is Holly McClane at the end, I also didn't believe that her saying my role of wife and mother surpasses everything. I think it's her olive branch to him saying, like, I think we can work on our marriage now.
You know what, though? She could have said that, because it's just like, I mean, I realize that they probably had a conversation, afterwards, but it's like, it's one of those things that would never happen. Like, I don't think anyone would really say that, like, wouldn't make that correction in that moment in real life. But it's just like,
this is the diehard world where people fly out of buildings. Reality isn't like, but you're right. They'd have a conversation. Like, their problems aren't solved. And I think that's very clear. And actually, as the Die Hard franchise progresses, it makes it very clear that their problems are not solved.
Okay.
But it's one of those days where it's like, yeah, we both had like the shittiest, scariest, most adrenaline-filled day ever. Let's just call a truce, make out in a limo, and go home. Also, can you just imagine, I always think this at the end of an action movie. Die Hard's the best, though. How amazing it would be to have a shower and like a glass of water and a sandwich and go to bed. Like, that would be the best feeling on earth.
I know this is jumping ahead, but when they are hugging at the end or making out at the end, I repelled physically. I was like, you know what? No, just like shower. He's dripping in blood, Jackie.
Hero blood. The blood of a hardworking man who just saved your life.
He would smell so bad.
Yeah.
Forgiven.
The least sexy thing.
The most sexy. He's like sweaty, he's bloody, he's getting it all over her face. Into it.
He's also probably covered in soot because he's been very close to several explosions.
Yeah.
And in vents. True.
Yep.
Get that all on my face. I'm in. Whatever grossness is on John McClane, he can put it on.
He's also probably got a nasty foot infection.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, that part's not hot. It does annoy me that they leave in a limo. I'm like, you both clearly need an ambulance. Holly's shoulder is probably dislocated.
Oh, yeah.
Go to the hospital, but they're just, I mean, it's more poetic that they drive away, make out.
They could have driven away making out in the back of an ambulance. That would have been cute.
Maybe Argyle drives them to the hospital.
Yeah, true. Maybe then Argyle goes back to talk to the police about his role in this, because he kind of just shows up at the end with his bashed up limo, like, I took down a terrorist too. Anyway.
Yeah.
You know what? This is why we're doing it full circle. I like this. Now back to Argyle.
Yeah.
This is why Argyle, you kind of hate him at the beginning because he's so chatty and annoying. But he really, he saves the day in his own way, plays a significant part. He's kind of funny because he's like the anti-John McClane. He doesn't know how to punch or do anything. But he has his heroic moment. I like Argyle.
Yeah, I do think it's funny that for various points throughout the movie, you check back in on Argyle. Like, all this action's happening up in the building and outside, and he's just chilling, listening to music, talking to his girlfriend, not knowing anything that's going on. But at a certain point, I was like, not only did, like, the terrorists not check the parking garage to make sure no one was down there, but when the police and the FBI are, like, surrounding the building trying to break in, none of them check the parking garage. Like,
yeah.
there's so many points where someone could have foiled their plans.
One point of correction, the parking garage has been locked down by those chain doors, so the police and FBI can't get it. And right. I kind of feel like the terrorists assume there's no one in a parking garage, because there generally isn't. And then also they lock down all the elevators and everything. So no one's coming up to the 30th floor where they are. So they're probably just like, it never occurred to them maybe. Mm-hmm. But you're right. The how slick and well organized they are, they probably would have checked the parking garage.
I have a question.
Also, the windows are tinted, so maybe they couldn't tell anyone was in the limo.
Yeah. That's true. Because also, sorry, before we get to Austin's question, just because one of the terrorists was trying to escape through the parking garage, I'm like, clearly it was part of their plan. So you think they would have just done a quick look around and been like, okay, good, there's no one here who can punch me at the end of the movie.
My question, though, is there was still like a fairly couple dozen people in the building. I guess none of them parked in the parking garage. Also, when John McClane shows up to the office tower and the security guard tells him to use the really fancy touchscreen, and then he finds it, and then he's like, oh, they'll be up on 30th. They're the only people there. It's like, then why did we have this moment? I mean, I know why we had this moment. I know we had this moment so that we could see that she's using her maiden name, but come on, security guard.
This has always bothered me my entire life. And then I realized this watching, I'm like, he had to verify that he knew someone at the party. He couldn't just be like, go up to the 30th floor, go hang out with those people.
Yeah, but he could have hit any name. Like, the name didn't do anything.
But that was a building directory. So he found his wife and said, this corporation, he's like, they're on the 30th floor. Because he could have been a crazy person. He'd be like, yeah, I'm here to see John Smith. And they'd be like, yeah, he's on 3. He's gone home. There's no one in the building.
Right, but it's not like it's not like he checked in when he hit her button. He just saw what floor she was on. It's not like it was like a check-in system. It was just
no. Okay. I don't think I'm being clear about what I'm trying to say. I'm saying the security guard, he could have asked the name of the person he's here to visit, but he made him do it in the system.
Right.
So, and then once he found her in the system, the security guard could see she was at the Nakatomi, or the corporation, Nakatomi Corporation, and they're on the 30th floor, and now you can go up. But he couldn't just be like, hey, welcome, everyone's on the 30th floor. Like, there needed to be a reason for him to send them to the 30th floor, even though they're the only ones in the building. So this time it made more sense to me. I talked myself into accepting this reasoning, where you're right. It's just to show that she's committed the cardinal sin of using her maiden name.
The nerve.
I mean, how dare.
Women.
Am I right?
Am I right? He checks in on his machine. He goes up to the 30th floor.
The ugliest office. What is this office?
They're still under construction.
The 80s extravagance.
Yeah. I like the bones of the building. Huge windows. Holly's office, I never realized until this point that it is baller.
I was thinking more on the water feature, and then the like wooden staircase with like, and there's a lot of carpet. It's
because they're rich. In the 80s, carpet equals rich times. Plush. Real plush.
Yeah.
But you're right. It's very 80s and dated. A lot of wood that's just hideous at this point. But you can see how at the time it would be like this fancy.
Well, yeah.
Like this place is rich. And when they go up to Takagi's office, to like the conference room where all the models of all their projects, that is just like a maze of mirrors and glass. It's so rich. This company is rich. Boom. There's your background. Money. Important to this movie.
Thank you for clearing that up. Yeah.
You're welcome. I don't know if you got confused. They're not actually terrorists. But sorry, back to Holly's office though. She's got a window onto the water feature area. She's got 2 windows because her office sticks out of the building like a cube. Mm-hmm. So she has this incredible view. Like, how rich do we think Holly is at this job? She's gonna be making like $1 million a year, right?
This is again why I get angry with like John for not supporting her. But I'm like, she is high up at this really successful company, making fucking bank, like making tons of money, supporting their children because she took them with her, and like living in a nice house with like a live-in nanny, it seems like. So And he's just like, oh, but I don't want that. I want to be a cop and you to not work. And I'm
But
like,
they have
suck it up.
in LA, John.
Yeah, suck it up. Move to LA. Your wife is successful.
I get it, but also, yeah, he should have sucked it up. But it's not easy to just leave your job and move. Like, he obviously does have a job that he's very invested in, and it is those kind of jobs where you can't really, like, he does mention it in a dickish way. He's like, I have a backlog of cases, I have all these things going to court, like, I can't just leave, which is true. Doesn't excuse anything, but I'm just saying, like, expecting anyone to just drop everything and move.
How long has she been at the company?
They said she's been in LA for 6 months.
Okay. Yeah, okay. So, like, had it been like, give it a year and I'll try to move out there within the year? But it didn't sound like he had any...
No, you're right.
Maybe
he had no intention
to the LAPD.
Yeah, like
Argyle calls him out.
Yeah, good for you.
Yeah, if it was like you said, Jackie, where he was like, I can't just up and move. I have to finish things up here, clear out some cases, put in to transfer to LA. It's a process. Totally different story. I would accept that. But it just sounds like, again, his wife is really rich and successful and he can't handle that. And that is really annoying because fucking Holly's great.
Is this whole movie about him overcompensating for the fact that he can't handle his wife being more successful than him, so he has to fight all these terrorists to earn his manhood back?
Yes.
Oh no, don't do that to me. Okay, but let's just acknowledge, like, it's a product of its time, right? Every movie we watch is a product of its time.
I felt so bad for Holly. I was like, oh my god, she must have to put up with so much bullshit in this office, so much misogyny.
Yeah, well, they introduce Ellis pretty fast, and he's like
the worst.
He's such a sleazy, gross, cheesy, like, sexist power display. Want to just wag his penis all over the place. He's so like, look at me, I'm the dude. He's terrible. Hate him.
He is such like a stereotype of 80s businessman, kind of, where it's like, I'm doing cocaine, I'm all slick and acting like an asshole, I'm rude, I'm sexist, I think I'm smarter and better than everyone else because I make some deals that make money. Just, yeah, he's the worst. So we're all really glad when he dies.
Yep.
But yeah, I mean, that's the point of Ellis. We've said this before in action movies. If they're going to kill someone, you have to hate them. They can't be an innocent person or else it ruins the whole movie. So Ellis proves over and over again that he cannot be relied on. He's shitty. He's bad under pressure. However, he does one good thing in the movie in that he doesn't give up Holly. He has an opportunity to tell Hans Gruber who John's real contact at the party is, and he takes it on himself and says, like, I'm his friend. And that's when my opinion of Ellis changes a little. I'm like, he did something good. And so
counterpoint.
Okay.
Did he do that to protect Holly, or did he do that for himself? Because if he goes in there and says, oh, that's Holly's husband, they'd be like, well, why are we talking to you? You don't know him. We can't use you for anything. Let me go bring in Holly.
Yeah.
I choose to believe the other way, because also he could have been like, oh, I know who the guy is. Come in on some money and I'll tell you, and it's Holly. And like, he still thinks he can make a deal. So he could probably think he could make a deal for Holly's information too, because that's the kind of guy Ellis is. He thinks he can play anybody. So if he decided that the course of action he wanted to do was to sell out Holly, he would have done it. I will say one thing that's nice, though, is that when Holly and John reunite, she's all like kind of sweet and hesitant and like trying to like make it work and talk and kind of help and be nice and smooth things over. And then he says one dick thing and she's just like, we're not having this fight again. And she just goes straight into like strong Holly mode where she's just like, we're not talking about this. This is not what it's about, blah, blah. And like she flips a switch and I love it. That's when I fell in love with Holly a bit, because I was like,
yeah. I also liked, I think it's in that same scene where he's talking with her and he's like, oh, be careful that Ellis guy, he's got his eye on you. And she's like, that's nice. I got my eye on like the bathroom in his corner office. And I was like, yes, Holly, keep moving up in the company. Take him down.
Right. She's only been there at this particular branch for 6 months and she's already like, you can see she's like the hardest working person there. She's advancing. Takagi depends on her. She's like, the Christmas party's happening and she's still like, got to finish my work. She's hardcore. Holly's a respectable lady.
And the fact that after Takagi is killed, sad, everyone turns to Holly to be the new leader. Like, that shows you that, like, she's also seen by people as trustworthy and reliable and like a strong leader. So I'm like, she's gonna be running that company soon enough.
Right, like they don't go to Ellis. They obviously
Yeah.
don't trust him.
Yeah,
and Holly
who would?
Right? But Holly also really like talks back to Hans Gruber on their first interaction. He's like, "What idiot put you in charge?" And she's like, "You did when you killed my boss." Boom! And even Hans Gruber is like, "Whoa, who's this? A new player has entered the game."
Yes.
If you get the respect of Hans Gruber, let's just say it, you deserve the world's respect. He's not an easy man to impress. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Basically, we've met the cast of characters, everyone's there. And then when I watch this movie, there's one specific thing that I like get super amped about. And it's so hard to describe. So I'm going to try and explain to you the scene that makes me like amped. It doesn't make sense, but just follow along. So there's like all this like ooh music, and the sun is setting, and you see the Pacific Courier truck coming up, and then another car comes beside it, and they're driving in parallel, and then the truck goes down the ramp, but they're at the exact same speed, so the truck just like disappears and the car turns around, and I'm like, stuff's gonna happen. This is it. That scene of the cars driving beside each other, I don't know what it is, but it like sparks so much anticipation in my mind. I'm like,
yeah,
it's happening.
Well, because you're like, oh, shit's going down. And now would be a good time to talk about how the music in this movie is really good.
Amazing, right?
So that was like one thing that I kept saying, is that this has a really fucking good score. It's so well matched up with the action and building tension. It's so good. And then I felt very smart because I caught something very early in the movie, and it happened throughout the movie, it happened over and over and over again. And then when I was like looking at trivia, it did pop up, and I was like, I caught this right the fuck away. And so and it's right around this time, because in the Christmas party you hear the strings playing Ode to Joy. We all know Ode to Joy, right? Beethoven 9. And then when the thieves arrive, when they first come in, you hear this like kind of inverted version of Ode to Joy, and that becomes their musical theme throughout the whole movie. So anytime there's a thief, there's like a very dark version of Ode to Joy. And I caught that instantly, and I felt so proud of myself. It happens throughout the whole movie.
Yeah. I can actually hear it right now with like the little bell kind of sound.
Yeah, it's like a lot darker, a little more ominous, obviously. But it happens like instantly, and it works really well because it's literally like the one scene, it's the party, it's like the actual piece Ode to Joy is playing, and then it blends in like instantly with the ominous version when the thieves arrive. So just a little fun fact. And so that, spoiler alert, will be my high point. The music in this movie was amazing.
It's the first time I've ever watched this movie where I have to consider the music, or even try and consider the music, because until I started hanging out with you guys and doing this podcast, the music never entered my brain on a conscious level.
Mm-hmm.
But this one I was really paying attention, and they have a lot of like sleigh bells. And
yes,
Christmas
I caught
sounds.
that too. Yeah,
very Christmas.
It's just like really well timed with the action, like throughout the whole movie, and there's a lot of score, which is exciting, and so that's one really good thing I'll say for it.
It is good. So Pacific Courier comes in, the truck goes below. We got Carl and we got Theo. This is where we're introduced to Carl. So the way I see this movie, Hans is the big bad guy. He's the smart brains. Carl is the muscle bad guy.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
The worst. Like, Carl is like the worst. I hate Carl. He's stupid. He doesn't follow orders. He's a like live wire. He should not be part of this crew. He cannot be depended on.
I mean, to be fair, his brother got murdered, right?
Yeah, but even in the beginning, like you could just he has those crazy eyes, like right
I've
away. I've
honestly already forgotten who he is. Like, I don't remember who this person is.
Carl, Austin, Carl. It's Carl, Austin. It's Carl. He has the long blonde hair, and he's the main bad guy, other than Hans.
Blonde. He's the main henchman. I guess.
Yeah.
You know what? I realized this is the first time I had this thought, also. But I was like, Carl can really do with a ponytail.
I thought of that too. I was like, I wonder what Jackie has to say about his hair, because it's
right?
in his face for a good chunk of it.
Every woman action hero needs a ponytail, and Carl
goes for men too.
It's all in his face. Sticky, not cool. But anyway, Carl and Theo come in. They do their stupid, oh, we're talking about basketball, we're harmless, and then they shoot the security guard. Hate that part. Hate Theo too. But they're supposed to be also like, ooh, look at how like cavalier and confident, and they don't care about murder and stuff. Like, they're just like so above
Theo's
it.
the computer
and, like,
guy, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I guess he's supposed to be some comic relief, I suppose. I did not find him comedic.
I wonder, because he is not funny. You're right. Like,
But I
nothing
think
he
he's
ever does is
supposed to
funny.
be, because he's like throwing
Poorly
out
chosen.
one-liners the whole movie.
Well, see, that to me is how they're implying that they're such psychos. Like, nothing phases them. None of this is serious. They're just like, they're so evil that they don't care about human life or like, and I find they do that a lot with making the bad guys hum or sing. It happens multiple times. I find it annoying every time in every movie where they're just like, oh, look, I'm so casual about holding hostages and I'm going to like sing as I do my work. And I'm like, no, nobody does that. That's just, it's a device to make you think that they're more evil than they really are. And I think it's cheap.
Can I do a complete tangent right now and tell you my favorite henchman moment in a movie?
Yes.
It's in Iron Man 3, where Iron Man's like in the facility killing all the bad guys, and then one of the henchmen just like drops his gun and puts his hands up, and he's like, honestly, it's my first day, these guys are weird, do whatever, and then just leaves. And I was like, I love this so much. That's the henchman I want to see in movies, where they're just like, this is just a job, I'm for hire, I am not invested.
Right? Or like when they're blowing up factories and stuff, like, this is my day job. Like, I just work on the assembly line. Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm not bad. I just have to feed my family.
I have a bone to pick, I think, coming up.
Oh, do it.
Is that a bathroom in the office that he's chilling in there? He's like cleaning
John?
up a little. John, yeah.
Yeah, that's Ellis's bathroom in his office.
Okay, so there's carpet in the bathroom.
Ew, in the actual bathroom or outside the door of the bathroom?
I think it's in, because wasn't he like sitting in the bathroom when he was doing the little toe on the carpet thing?
I thought he was just outside the bathroom, but I've never actually thought about it enough.
Pretty sure there's carpet in the bathroom.
Please, God, don't let there be carpet in the bathroom. That is disgusting. I thought that was done in the 70s.
That's like big cap locks in my notes.
When Holly takes over that office with the ensuite bathroom, she will renovate it. Don't you worry.
It will be
She'll rip that carpet out. Yes, it'll be subtle. It'll be nice.
Lots of tans. You know she do.
Okay.
Ew, that's gross. I really hope that's not true. And if it is carpet in the bathroom and he's putting his toes into it,
yeah.
dude.
I mean, I thought,
especially if it's Ellis's bathroom. I'm sorry, he's the kind of man who is not going to pee correctly. He's going to get it everywhere.
There's
peas
splash. And drugs everywhere in that bathroom and that carpet.
Correct.
Yeah.
Ew.
So now that the terrorists are here, can we just take a moment and speak about Hans Gruber?
Yes.
Number 1, R.I.P. Alan Rickman.
R.I.P. Honestly, so talented.
Such a good actor. Such great. I love him.
Like a good dude.
His first feature film.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Good for him.
Yeah. And he does a great job.
He does a fantastic.
He's so freaky as a villain. I mean, no shit. He got typecast as a villain for like a big chunk of his career, but
so good at it.
I only ever understand about 70% of what he says, but I love it. It's fine.
Really? I think
at the best of times. I'm terrible with accents, and then throw in his voice. I just can't do it.
Hans Gruber, the best villain of all time. He's great.
I do think he's genuinely a great villain. I love the villains in this movie because it's just so straightforward. They're not taking over the world. They're not trying to like corrupt humanity. They don't think they're gods and that they're right and they're like chosen whatever. They're just some dudes who want money and are really smart and really evil and are going for it. And I'm like, that, I love that. I love a straightforward villain.
I love a straightforward villain, but I also love a very complicated, smart cat and mouse, like the police will do this, then we do this, like plan where I love it when you think it's going wrong, but it's like, no, I already thought of that. It's actually going perfectly. And Hans Gruber does that so well. Everyone's like doubting him. They don't understand his plan. Obviously, he doesn't tell everybody because they're too stupid to handle the facts, but they're always like, Hans, what are we going to do? What are we going to do? He's like, chill. I have this under control. He knows what's going to happen. One thing, though, he didn't count on John McClane.
Yeah, I do love that he is like one step ahead of the police and of the FBI, and like his henchmen only know what they need to know, basically. And he's just like, you do this. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. And then everything goes right. And yeah, if it weren't for John McClane, that would have been a really fucked up plan that would have succeeded.
Yeah, and killed a lot of people.
I do like the moment where he is or they're like talking on the radio to each other. He calls him a security guard, And then John McClane's like, sorry. And just the look on Hans Gruber's face, yeah, he's like horrified at the idea that like, who the fuck is this guy? I did like that moment.
It's great, right? And it's also kind of like this uncouth person, right? He's like we're having a conversation. Like it kind of comes through that he's a bit of a snob.
Yeah.
Too, which I love. Hans Gruber's best thing that he does, in my opinion, is when he and John run up again, like they're in the same area on the roof and they're like talking and he's faking an American accent. He tells them his name is William Clay and he works in the building and they feel each other out. I remember even watching that. I'm like, this is so cool. When I was a kid, I'm like, they don't know what each other looks like. Well, eventually he knows what John looks like, but they don't know each other. It's all over the radio. It's all very distant threats and kind of playing around. And then they get face to face and then they have kind of like a mini showdown. So cool. They're really like sizing each other up. It's awesome.
I like that a lot too because it shows that like Hans is thinking on his feet too. Like in that moment he has to like split second make a decision. Like what do I do? Like he doesn't know who John McClane is, but now he does through their like interactions and he's like, this is him right in front of me because who the fuck else would this be? So do I attack him? Do I make a move? Do I make a run for it? And he's like, no, I'm gonna see what happens.
Right? And then they're playing off each other and you think that he's fooled John, but John's not fooled. And like, it's that again, that like, he's going to do this, so I'm going to do this kind of advanced planning and strategy, which I love. I love that in a movie. You know, you don't play your cards, you play the man, right? Like it's all about mano a mano opponents. Awesome. Guess what? I love this movie.
I do appreciate that some of the, because as we know, what I tend to hate about action movies is just shootout after shootout, car chase after car chase. You know, same scenes over and over and over again.
So Speed.
Yeah, I was listening to our episode on Speed, and I was super generous with that movie. I gave it 10 out of 10 for enjoyment.
Yes, girl.
Yeah.
That doesn't sound like you. I mean,
it doesn't sound
movie.
Like me. It really doesn't sound like me.
Because Keanu is so hot.
It might be. I think it's because Sandra Bullock.
Sandra Bullock.
She just boosts everything up.
She's the patron saint of this podcast.
It's true. She's looking over us. But I forgot what I was saying. But I did appreciate that this movie, I mean, it has a lot of explosions, it has a lot of shootouts, but there's at least there's a fair amount of hand-to-hand combat. There's some like creative fight scenes, and then like there's some problem solving, right? Like he has to creatively figure out how to escape, and there's a little bit of cat and mouse. And I also appreciate that John McClane's not just like he's not, I don't know what the word is. What am I trying to say?
He's not a superhero yet.
Yeah, he's not a superhero. Like he gets his ass handed to him. You know, he needs his little emotional support from Carl Winslow, and like
it's true. Like he's in this movie, it changes immediately after every other Die Hard movie. But in this one, he's a dude.
Because I was gonna say like he's more sympathetic of a character than I expected him to be. So that was a nice surprise. Yeah.
But I like that you like that because it's one of my favorite parts about Die Hard.
Yeah.
Is that he is just a guy. There is a lot of creativity involved, and like the reason he doesn't get killed is because he thinks outside the box in almost every situation.
For sure. It was a nice surprise because I was definitely expecting it to be more just of a shoot 'em up type situation, and I'm glad it wasn't. And then I will say in the parts where it was, I kind of zoned out as usual. I started shopping on Amazon.
What'd you buy?
What was I looking for yesterday? Oh, I was looking for a windshield cover for my car for the snow so that I don't have to scrape the snow off and the ice off.
That sounds good. Scraping snow is the worst thing about having a car.
Yeah, so that's exciting.
Yeah, this is a shopping podcast now.
And I will think about it I'll think about Die Hard every time I take it off my car.
Oh, it should have like a Die Hard decal on the front of it. That'd be really cool. You just made me think of something that I never really thought about is how creative they were in finding different sets and areas for them to fight.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Technically, you're just in an office building. It should be pretty boring. They're all over the place. It doesn't get very stagnant in terms of, now we're fighting in an office, and now we're fighting in another office, and now we're in a third office also.
Yeah, so as someone who tends to hate the repetitiveness of action movies, I appreciated that.
Yeah, he kills people in a lot of different ways.
There are some, like, pretty severely disturbing moments in this movie, I will say.
Let's talk about them.
What is your favorite kill?
Ooh, mine is Tony's death.
Who's Tony?
Tony is the guy who's Carl's brother, who he ends up hand-to-hand combating, and then they fall down the stairs.
Ah, yes.
Oh,
because the stairs fall is filmed so well.
Yeah, it is.
it really does look that could break someone's neck. Like it's really, a lot of times they're just like, ugh, they click their head to the side. Oh, he broke his neck. But this one, you're like, yeah, that really would break someone's neck and kill them.
I appreciated his sweater. I thought it looked very comfy.
The gray sweater and the gray sweatpants.
Yeah.
Very comfy. Why he chose to wear that, we're not sure. But
you gotta
want it to be comfortable.
You gotta be comfortable. You're going into a high stress situation. It's gonna be running around.
I think it's time for a t-shirt change.
Okay.
Oh, yes.
Nice.
That's the famous Tony shirt. Ho, ho, ho. Now I have a machine gun. First of all, I love it for multiple reasons. Let's get into it. He puts Tony in the elevator and he says, 9 million terrorists in the world and I have to kill one with shoes smaller than my sister's, which is so funny because he's trying to put these tiny shoes on and he can't.
I did like that as like an explanation of why he's still without shoes. Because they're like, oh, why wouldn't he just take the shoes off the guy he killed? And it's like, he tried. I appreciate that they showed that he tried and it just didn't work.
Yeah. He's like, I want shoes.
Yeah, he's like,
can't have
no
shoes.
one wants to be fighting terrorists barefoot. This is not on my to-do list. I would like shoes.
And then he sees the Santa and he has his hottest Bruce Willis moment, which is the smirk. And then he sends the elevator down with the body in it with the message. The message is really just to provoke Hans. But the whole plan, I think when I was a kid, I was like, why did he do that? That's kind of stupid. Like nobody would send a body down an elevator, but it's also that he can surveil them.
Mm-hmm. Right.
From the top of the elevator.
And that's also where I got my first Brooklyn Nine-Nine reference, understanding, because that's where he's writing the names on his arm, right?
That's a big kind of problem with the movie is that they disappear.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of people will, God, sounds like I'm in forums. I'm not. But a lot of people will say that it's because he's sweating a lot and like running and like scraping himself. I still think you would see some Sharpie, but also he was pretty sweaty when he was writing in the first place, so maybe it didn't seep in.
Do we know it was like a Sharpie? Because maybe he just grabbed a marker that was lying around, but it wasn't a permanent marker.
It could have just been like a washable marker.
Could have been a dry erase board marker.
It just like flakes off. It's like, God damn it. Why did I do that? But yeah, the man knows how elevators work. How does he know? I don't know.
That was also one of my notes. This man knows his way around an elevator.
Because he's a working class man, He probably worked on elevators going through cop school.
Yeah, he does understand a lot about how elevators work, how like vents work, how elevator shafts work, like how building internal structure works. And I just, as someone who has never been in this situation, like I've never been in an elevator shaft, and I'm like, why was he able to know how these worked so well? I'm like,
he's just your everyday NYPD officer
/ elevator technician.
Yeah, when he's on top of the elevator itself, like when he's spying on them and then it starts to move and it goes to the top and he kind of like ducks and doesn't get hit or whatever. Again, as someone who's never been in an elevator shaft, never sat on top of an elevator, are you confident that you wouldn't die up there? Because I would 100% assume I was going to die up there, and the second it started moving, I would have dropped back down into the elevator.
Yeah, he knew exactly when to duck.
Yeah. How?
Well, he saw it coming.
But how did you know that there was enough room? You could have been crushed to death, and then the end.
He's a tad bulky.
He's a tad bulky. Wink. You're right about that. But also, if you really look at the structure of, it's like a T-bar in the middle of the elevator that's coming at him. So he kind of ducks to the side. So if you really look at it, even if it did come to this close, it wouldn't smush him. He ducks to the side of the bar.
Did he have enough time to figure that out?
John McClane.
I was gonna say, I think what Jen is saying is like, was he able to assess that in the moment so quickly?
Yeah, in the blink of an eye. That's the brilliance of John McClane. He has the gift of assessing a situation and handling it in the blink of an eye. He's proven that time and time again.
Listen, he does a lot of, kind of nonsense things that wouldn't work in real life that I can accept because it's Die Hard. But just part of my brain, the second he's on top of the elevator and it starts moving, I'm like, panic, get in the elevator. Yeah. Do not just stay on top while it's going up. You're going to die.
Well, we haven't talked about Al Powell coming in.
Yeah, Carl Winslow.
Well, that was going to be my next bone to pick. I'm sorry.
You have a bone to pick with Al Powell?
No, not with him. I have a bone to pick with the idea when John finally gets onto the roof, or whenever he's able to make the call over the radio to the police department. Right?
She's so cute, like trying to remember the movie as if she doesn't remember it beat by beat like I do.
I forget where he is when he makes this radio call. But
well, let me just quickly say, first he tries to call the fire department by pulling the fire alarm.
Right, yeah.
That's what alerts them to his presence because they know that it's coming from the floor that he's on. To alert Carl Winslow / Al Powell, it has one of the best lines in the entire movie. because he has Tony's radio. So he just goes on a random channel and he's trying to alert the police. And it's like an FCC line. And she's like, sir, this line is reserved. And he's like, no fucking shit, lady. Does it sound like I'm ordering a pizza?
Yes, I wrote that down.
They get Al Powell to do a drive-by.
Well,
That's,
yeah,
Austin was trying to do her I have a bone
Nope.
to pick, and Jackie's like, I'm taking over and I'm explaining why this is hilarious.
I just wanted to have that line thrown out because it is
Just-
the best.
Yes, it's in my notes. But like, so he's trying to get their attention. He's trying to say what's going on. They hear gunfire, and they're awful cavalier about it. Like, they send Carl Winslow, but they're kind of like, yeah, it doesn't, I don't know, probably nothing. Like, you just heard a shit ton of gunfire. I mean, I guess it's possible he took his thumb off.
I think that all they heard was like feedback, like some loud
Okay.
squealy noise, and they all were like, ow, my ear hurts.
So
I don't think
I'll-
they could identify those as gun
Maybe
shots.
I'll allow that because I forgot momentarily that it was a radio and not a phone. He probably moved his finger. But it did initially bother me because I was like, why are you guys being so cavalier? You just heard gunshots, but okay.
I will say to Austin's point, this movie really posits that like John McClane is a hero, but police and law enforcement and FBI as a whole are fucking garbage because
Except Carl
they
Winslow.
don't. Yeah, except Carl Winslow.
That's what I
So
was
like,
gonna say.
they don't take this seriously. He's like, there's terrorists here, and they're just like, you're silly.
Yeah.
And then they send one car to maybe half investigate. They don't even tell him what is being claimed. And then when they do, he does call in backup after he's like, hey, guess what? You sent me into a building full of terrorists. Thanks for that. They show up and they don't believe him. They don't believe anything. They fuck it up. The FBI show up. They're like, we don't care if hostages die. They fuck it up. So it's like, everyone sucks except John McClane and Carl Winslow.
You're right, and that's part of the joy of this movie is how stupid the police are. Especially, I think it's a like LA police thing. They're kind of putting
Maybe this is why John McClane didn't want to transfer to the LA.
maybe, but they're kind of like LA police. It's like Beverly Hills Cop kind of like all they do is like deal with celebrities and stuff. Like they don't know real police work. But I also think specifically in this movie, they're making fun of police or authority in power.
Yeah.
It's Dwayne T. Robinson and the two FBI Johnsons who were like the real shitheads. Everyone else is just working stiff. And again, it's coming down to working stiffs, unite. Like, don't be, oh, you're the commissioner or whatever. Like, get out of here. You're stupid. It's like the guys with their feet on the ground who are the real heroes. That's the message.
Yeah, I got that. I got that it was more like the chain of command was the...
But it's so happy you brought up Dwayne T. Robinson because he's one of my favorites in hating him. He's so stupid. But he's funny stupid. He keeps backtracking and making these dumb decisions. And the way he talks with the FBI guys is so like sycophantic, suck up loser. You're just like, oh, you're such an idiot, but like a harmless idiot. Like he's doing harm. Don't get me wrong. He's really fucking up this situation. But I find him funny. Like I like his brand of like stupid because it is bad. He's doing bad things and causing bad things to happen. But like he seems like a kind of a goofy dumb ass.
He's just bad at his job.
Yeah.
So people are dying as a result.
Right, but it doesn't feel that serious. It just kind of feels funny. He definitely has caused some
Well,
deaths,
this is why
but
you can't
he's
think of the real
charming.
world consequences for these things.
No.
Jackie's very much like, this is a movie. This is a movie. Jen and I are like, yeah, but
Yeah.
Dude, when the two FBI guys are in a helicopter and they get caught up in an explosion and they die, the line is, oh, I guess we need some new FBI guys. Like, they don't care that, like, 5 people just died in a helicopter explosion. But also, they set up that the FBI guys are worth hating because they don't care if they lose hostages. So we don't care that they die. They're set up to be despicable for this reason. Who I feel bad for is the helicopter pilots. Innocent people.
yeah.
They shouldn't have been
Yes.
sacrificed.
I will say, like, when they show the FBI guys as being dumb and awful, when they're like, oh, we'll lose 25% of the hostages, whatever. I was like, this is really not a great look for the FBI. Like, who wrote this movie that really hates the FBI? That they
Yeah.
would be like, we can let, 25%, we will let a quarter of the hostages just fucking die.
Yeah, but they're awful the entire time. Like, they don't respect anyone. They're like, we'll try and let you know when we come and you're your men. And then they yell at the electrical guys. Like,
Yeah.
so yeah, you're right. Someone really hates the FBI and set them up to be the worst the entire movie. Like, they're so
Yeah.
bad. It is hilarious that he introduces himself as Agent Johnson and Special Agent Johnson,
No
no relation. Come on.
And at one
Huh.
point he answers the phone, I think, and he's like, Johnson, no, the other one. And I was
Yeah.
like, okay, that's a random, like, cute joke that they just happen to have the same name. But I did just, Yeah, weird. Even them being dicks to the cops and the city workers, I could accept if they were trying to save all the people inside, but the fact that they were dicks to everyone and were still gonna let people die in there, I was like, why even hear Agent Johnson and Special Agent Johnson, no relation?
Isn't it kind of nice to see a movie where they're not constantly saying all police are great and like they're heroes, especially nowadays where we're all a little bit more aware of the abuses that go on in a police department? And it's kind of nice because most movies, correct me if I'm wrong, a lot of action movies from 2000s on are like police are infallible.
You did just remind me that Carl Winslow is on desk duty because he shot a kid.
Yeah, they use that to talk about Al Powell's emotional side and all this, but they don't really talk about the kid at all. It's like, I shot a kid, and then it's just like, that made me feel bad. And it's like, doesn't talk about the impact on anyone except for how Al feels about it.
They don't say if the kid survives or not, first of all.
Oh, no, he didn't. I think it's implied he's dead.
Yeah. But then it's also just that he's like, they never tell you what to do if you have a bad day, and now I'm too scared to be on the streets anymore. And I'm like, first of all, you should have been fired. Like, you shouldn't even just be on desk duty. If you especially if he killed a kid, like, you should be fired as a police officer. Sorry, hot take. If you murder a child, you should lose your job.
I'm gonna defend this. I can't believe you brought me to defend a child murderer.
You don't have to.
I'm going to. Okay, think about, so maybe they didn't have those orange caps, whatever, that are on toy guns now to indicate they are not a real gun, because those orange caps came about because kids got shot by police playing with the guns. Like, they looked real. I think this movie is setting up that he is a good dude, and what he did was a mistake, clearly, and it weighs on him.
Two things. One, I think they could have had something else happen on duty to Officer Carl Winslow to have him
anything else
desk duty and still be a good cop that we can root for, other than, murdering a child. And second of all, like, it's hard because this happened a few years ago in the States where a 12-year-old boy playing with a toy gun was shot and killed by police. And those police also didn't get fired or charged or anything. And it's like, this happens, and it like devastates families and communities, and I don't like rooting for that cop in this movie. Like, I don't like that that's the story they chose for Officer Carl Winslow.
Yeah,
like,
it literally could have been anything else.
Yeah, maybe he could have fucked up on duty and let a bad guy get away, and now he doesn't trust his judgment or something. But it just had to be, I murdered a child.
What if he had been shot and then was like traumatized and had PTSD and was afraid?
That's not manly enough for 1988.
Yeah, no, it is manly. Killing children.
Yep, that's what this movie posits.
Fuck you, teenagers. I'm a manly man.
I'm not justifying any of this. I'm just saying I understand what they were going for and why they did it. And it is the worst thing you can imagine happening and having to continue living your life after having died.
It's another one of those things that like works for the plot of the movie, but you can't dwell on, which is not our specialty.
Yeah.
I don't think Al Powell's getting out of this consequence free.
Do we follow up with Officer Carl Winslow in the sequels?
Yeah, Al Powell is briefly mentioned in Die Hard 2, but he doesn't have a significant role. He's cool, though.
Do they mention if he's still a cop?
No, and they don't mention the outcome of any consequences.
Okay.
It's a bad look now, especially because the widespread abuse of police power that we all are more aware of currently. But at the time, I think it's interesting and rare in these movies to show a man having a conscience. They're like not meant to in most movies. Action movies, right?
It's just a shitty way to go about choosing that.
Yeah. We're back to the True Lies effect.
It's fine.
All right.
We should talk about how he's introduced, though, where they friggin' throw a body out a window.
Yeah, which is
fantastic. It's fantastic until you think about that it was coming from like the 30th floor.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure the body would explode.
Yeah, I was going to ask. I'm not a scientist, so Jackie will explain this to me because
you're not a science.
I'm not a science, and as a science, Jackie will know if bodies explode if being dropped 30 feet. But like he would
30 stories.
30 stories. Sorry, he would like splat, right? Like that. There's gonna be a splat.
Yeah. So I don't know a lot about this subject. I do know that people who fall out of planes and hit the cement basically liquefy. I think 30 stories. You'd still have a human shape to you, but all your bones are like shattered and there's like blood everywhere, but there's still the shape of a man. But coming through the windshield the way he did, and then they show Al driving backwards and the body is just kind of in the windshield hanging out. No, it'd be a way bigger mess. And also, I think he would have destroyed the engine. Like, that's a huge projectile to fall onto the hood of a car.
Yeah.
It's cool. So we're okay with that? Question?
Yeah, I'm okay with it because it is cool. I don't need it to be scientifically accurate. That's not what I'm watching Die Hard for.
Thank you.
I think it is a great scene where he just throws the body down. And it's good thinking on John McClane's part to be like, I need to get this cop's attention and let him know shit's getting real. What can I do?
This is when he has the classic line. Welcome to the party, pal.
Just to recap, you're on your second shirt and your second prop mug?
Yep.
Okay.
And not done by a long shot.
Oh my god.
I'm gonna do another shirt change because we
Okay.
already covered what's referenced on my underneath this shirt.
All right. This is our
Okay.
guide.
What's our next shirt?
I like how you put them on in chronological order. What is that? No.
Hans
Bubby. I'm your white knight. Ellis.
Yeah, this is a good topic. Let's discuss Ellis going in to negotiate with Hans like the fucking moron he is.
Oh, Ellis. He's so stupid. He's like slicks his hair down, does a bump of coke, and he's like, he even does this thing that I always associated with cheesy men. And it's like only seen it in a few movies, but I immediately am like, I hate that person, is when they lick their teeth really obviously. Skis ball thing to do. And Ellis does it. And I'm like, ugh, you're so terrible.
He really nailed the slimy,
right?
Yeah.
80s gross.
But yeah, he's like, Hans, sprechen de Tag or something. He tries to speak German.
Sprechen Sie Tag.
Does that mean, do you want to talk? What does that mean?
It literally would mean like, do you speak talk?
Oh, Ellis. It's worse than I thought. I'm like, he works for an international company. Maybe he speaks some German. No, he's just, no.
But also, the bad guys have spoken to them in English, so you could just go up and be like, I would like to make a deal.
Yeah.
It's Ellis, man. He's got to play the game.
And also, like, I know he's a cocky, arrogant asshole, and I know he is also high on cocaine, so there's not the best process going on in his mind, but I'm just like, what are you thinking you're going to accomplish? You're going to tell them who John is to get John to come down there. In his version, best case scenario, they're going to murder John McClane. Like, you know that, right?
So I don't actually know. I think in his mind, because before he goes in to talk to Hans, he's like, someone's got to take control of this situation. And yeah, he's done coke 3 times that we've seen so far. So he's just like, I'm going to take control. And I really think, I'm trying to give Ellis the benefit of the doubt, but I think that he thinks that if he can get John to surrender, then he can get John to peacefully surrender and just get like tied up, take away that level of threat, and they can continue on with this as more of a business deal. Because he still thinks they're trying to get political prisoners freed and then escape. Like, he doesn't know their plan is to kill everyone. I think he still is hoping for a peaceful resolution and that maybe he can negotiate his way into it.
I feel like that's giving him a lot of credit.
It is, but it's the only thing I can think of. Otherwise, why else would he do this?
I think he just thought, I don't know I don't know the specifics of what he thought. I think his just coked up brain, he was like, I'm gonna win this situation.
Very
Because
possible.
I'm so charming and a smooth talker and everyone listens to me.
Yeah,
I'm a man.
He does say, like, at one point where he's like, oh, John's messing things up and getting in the way. So I think he wants, like, the terrorists and the police outside to be the ones negotiating. So he's like, I have to get John to relax so this is over with sooner. The police can handle it. But again, like, his actual plan of, like, I will get John to surrender to terrorists who will murder him. Like, again, like you said, they already killed Takagi. Murder's on the table. He knows this. It's just, it's not well thought out. He should just do some more cocaine and be quiet.
Yeah, just sit in the corner, snort your cocaine. You might survive the night.
Yeah. Yeah. But John says it perfectly. He's like, Hans, Ellis doesn't know what kind of man you are. I know what kind of man you are. This is not my friend.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really don't have any excuse for Ellis. I kind of love the being of Ellis. Like, I love this scene.
Yeah.
I love the way he's like, Hans, what are you doing? This is radio, not TV, when he's pointing a gun at him.
Yeah.
And he's like drinking the Coke right as he gets shot.
Just like Hans Gruber is like the perfect villain, I feel like Ellis is the perfect, just like smarmy, arrogant asshole.
Yeah.
Like,
who doesn't need to be. Yeah.
I hate him, but also like respect, I suppose.
Yeah.
As a performance.
But yeah, he's like a worthwhile part of the movie. Like, he's memorable.
Yeah, it's a good scene. And like you said earlier, Austin, it's like the cat and mouse thing between John and Hans. It's really just furthered in that when like he's on the walkie-talkie with him and he's just like, listen, this guy's an idiot. Like, you and I know what you're up to. You know what I'm up to. We don't have to have him in this. Like, I know the man you are. I know you're a serious fucking terrorist and will actually kill this man. And he is just a dumb cocaine addict.
Yeah. There's like a certain level of respect.
Yeah.
That they have.
Yeah, and Ellis is so obviously not on their level. You're really right. Like, I didn't think about it that way until you guys both said it, but it's true. He's just like not on the level.
Yeah, he's way out of his league.
But he says, Hans, bubby.
Apparently that was improvised, so Alan Rickman's like, what the fuck expression also real.
Oh, good.
I appreciate that.
Classic.
So the next note I have is on the meeting between, which we already talked about, but when they meet each other. I did not care for this because I couldn't tell what was going on. Because I couldn't tell. I'm like, who is he fooling him? Does he know? It worked on me. I didn't know.
Right? You're right. I think it was one of you guys said it where it's like this, maybe it was Jen, the split-second decision he had to make about how to play it. That also proves that Hans and John are so well matched as adversaries because they're both so good at improvising. Well, I want to know what tips John off. Like, does he wouldn't have given anyone a gun with bullets?
It was the name, I think. It was when he said his name, John McClane's looking at the directory behind him and he sees that name come up. And I think he was like, that seems suspicious.
No, I think that's what you're supposed to believe, that he sold himself with that because it's a building directory. So
yeah, I know. I guess. I took it as like the opposite where John McClane just assumed that I don't know, maybe it wouldn't have made sense. I didn't see if it said what floor, but maybe it wouldn't have made sense. You would assume if he was Clay, he would probably be associated with that company, but maybe he wasn't. Like maybe John could see that on the directory, you know what I mean? Like maybe William Clay is from like floor 15 and it's like, why the fuck would you be up here then?
I think it's because they're right after that, it's when John decides to give him the gun. So I think that's trying to make you think that because he said I'm Clay and Clay is clearly a tenant in the building. Yeah. It's supposed to make you think that John buys it and now he's giving him a loaded gun. Like I think you're supposed to get a sense of danger because now you're like, John is convinced. Yeah. Oh no, he's giving him a gun.
But I don't know what else would have tipped him off necessarily.
Yeah, that's the thing. I don't know what tipped him off except for just generally he would never give anyone a loaded gun. Who knows what tipped him off? All we know is John McClane knows things, right? He knows how elevators work. He knows not to trust people. He just knows.
Yeah.
But yeah, so Hans radios everybody while he's pointing the gun at John. And John's like, oh, no bullets, doy. And then Hans is like, you were saying all my backup is here now while you were talking to me about how smart you are. So then John has to run. And that's when Hans says, shoot the glass. And they shoot all the glass. And yeah, Franco gets his knees blown apart and he falls through glass. He dies.
That was gnarly. That was a very extended close-up shot on some
slow-mo running, knees. Right?
Yeah.
That was a lot.
There's some pretty gross stuff, honestly. I never answered Jen's question about my favorite death, but the big one at the end with being hanged by the chain, that was not pleasant. That was not pleasant at all.
But that's not how he dies.
Oh, wait, what?
Isn't it?
No, Carl comes back at the end and gets shot by Al Powell.
Oh, you're
that's
right,
him.
Right.
Okay, well, I didn't recognize that was him.
How does he get down from there?
That does not make any sense. He's hanging there while hostages are running down, like he's still hung up.
Also, none of them notice him, but
for multiple minutes he's left hanging, so he should not be able to come back alive. But
that did not even occur to me that was possibly the same person.
Yeah, same. I was like, he's some henchman that survived, but I did not.
Some generic German henchman, that's all I got.
Yeah.
Did not place him as the one that was hanging by a chain for several minutes as hostages ran downstairs, being like, I don't have the capacity to deal with this, I'm not even looking at
it. They didn't even acknowledge it. No one saw it.
His thirst for vengeance keeps his body going without oxygen. He doesn't need it.
Oh, so yes, I think when they start shooting at so this is like when they're breaking the glass, when Hans tells them to shoot at the glass, didn't occur to me that it was because he saw that he was wearing bare feet and he would know that he'd have to run across glass. That's very smart, Hans Gruber. I tip my hat to you. But John McClane's like, Jesus Christ. And I was like, yeah, same. Too much. This is step one of Austin tuning out a little bit.
It was a lot of shooting. That was an extended couple minutes of them just shooting glass.
Yeah.
Like, okay, we get it.
I got
it's
it.
Glass. Yeah. But I was also like, I guess it's the 80s. They wouldn't have safety glass in offices.
No, I guess not.
You'd
Even
expect
though,
it.
like, yeah, this is a very, like, high to do, like, secretive, rich, wealthy company. Like, you think they'd have some extra security in their building.
They had a computer that you put a name in, so
No, like, you would have some sort of, like, passes, you would have doors that lock, you would have shatterproof glass. Like,
I kind of got the sense that originally that room was supposed to, I think, maybe have more to do with the movie, or like be a little bit more, have a little bit more emphasis on like security or like technology in some capacity, and
I
then
think
they
you're
just
right.
cut it or changed it. I feel like I read that.
Well, it also makes sense because when he's doing his initial perusal of the building, his like recon, he's like
Yeah.
33 computers. So I felt like there
mm,
was supposed to be
Yeah, I
more
think there
about
was a
that.
little more to it, but not that that has anything to do with the quality of the glass, but you know.
no,
But
but it's
still.
just a general, this is a very wealthy, secretive company that apparently has a massive, like, 7-lock safe in the middle of their office building full of millions and millions of dollars, yet their security system is just like a touchscreen and a guy downstairs.
There were two guys,
Oh, I
so
apologize. I apologize.
but also yeah. And their vases full of priceless art. I why?
I
Who
don't
knows?
know. And it
You
was
don't
like
question Takagi, Jen.
there
He
was
knows what
also
he's doing.
like some sort of Japanese like warrior historical like items, which, you know, sure, maybe you own that because you were a wealthy Japanese man and you want to be a collector. Why are you storing it in your office safe? What does it have to do with the company?
It's probably because that safe is better than the safe he has at home.
That's true. Does he have 7 locks at home?
He should have 8 at home.
But I am surprised that John's feet aren't hurt up until this point. He's done a lot of crazy stuff, and he's run, and he's been shot
He's
at.
probably
And
broken a toe or something. Like, I'm
He
sure
must
he's
have,
at
right?
least stubbed a toe at the bare minimum.
Maybe his feet are just like super calloused from all his time as like a New York cop, always being on his feet all day. So like
Yeah,
it's just
maybe.
harder to penetrate and feel pain.
Ew.
That was so
Callous.
gross, though. Him pulling it out. Well, first the blood trail did not. I was like looking down, and Blake's like, "Don't bother looking up. Just don't look up. Don't look up yet." I'm like, "All right." And then I looked up naturally because when.
Can you like not look at a scene that has blood in it?
I mean, I can, but why? Why should I?
Huh.
There's one reason I would have suggested to look at the foot blood trail, and it is as follows. I've always thought in this scene he uses one foot more than the other. Like he sacrifices one foot to get like he's like it's better to have one injured foot than two super injured feet. So he kind of like hops over. So there's only one foot that's like super bleeding.
Mm-hmm.
And that makes a lot more sense in the rest of the movie why he's limping with one foot.
Good catch. Good
Again,
catch.
he's a smart dude. He thinks these things through
Yeah.
in a split second.
I buy that. That checks out.
But yeah, that removing the glass in a sink situation, it hurts me. Like I get that
But
feeling where you're just like clenched up. You're like that.
I did like that he was also feeling that feeling. It's like he's not just like, I'm a big man. I can just pull this out. No big deal.
Yeah.
On to the next. Like he got his fucking ass handed to him.
Yeah, and that's like you were saying earlier about like one of the things you liked about this movie is that, you know, John McClane does get beat up and he's not a superhero. And it made me think that I'm like, oh, this movie kind of gets made every once in a while, but it's with starring someone like The Rock, who just automatically looks like nothing will ever hurt him.
Yeah.
So it's good that like Bruce Willis A does actually get hurt, but B, like he also actually fits the everyman regular guy thing. So when he does get hurt, you don't think he's gonna live forever. Unlike, for example, the movie Skyscraper with The Rock, where The Rock is fighting terrorists in a tower.
Right.
Where
Not to
you're
be
just like-
confused with this one.
Yeah, where you're like, oh, of course he's gonna be fine. He's the fucking Rock. Look at him.
Yeah, that's a good point. Although I will say I don't buy Bruce Willis as the everyman, just average Joe. I don't know. Maybe I'm too jaded, I suppose. I'm not seeing it with fresh eyes, but he's
Do you not think he just looks like an average dude in this?
no. Was I supposed to?
I
don't
think
know.
he does.
I don't. I mean, he looks like Bruce Willis, I suppose, which is not a bad thing. But
Yeah, but that's like an average dude. Like he's not super ripped. Like I said, he's not the
he's
Rock.
not Arnold Schwarzenegger,
Yeah.
I suppose. He's a bulky dude.
Oh, I'm gonna take off my third shirt.
Yes.
It says "Happy Trails, Hans."
Excellent.
That's what he says when he throws Hans out the window.
So this is your 4th shirt?
Yeah.
So I would like to talk about the other moment that made me feel closer to Jake Peralta, where he jumps off the roof with the fire hose tied in the loosest knot humanly possible. just tied around his waist.
I mean, it's only 40 stories up. No big deal. It's a terrible decision. He only by the like very lucky angle of the wheel against the wall does he not fall to his death. Like it's did not work. Like that has to be clearly stated.
Yeah.
It's a fluke that he survives because that should not work. Very dumb. Not a pro hose jumper.
It was just the loosest. It was like a single knot.
Yeah.
It wasn't even double knotted.
Yeah.
To be fair, the second it had any tension, it was going to tighten. And it had a big hose nozzle. So it's not like the end was going to slip through. But you're right. It was a very cavalier knot.
I mean, would you trust that? Be like, good enough. It'll tighten once I jump off the roof.
The fact that he even thinks that this is an option is insane. Like it is not. Yeah. I wouldn't do this with a full safety gear.
Yeah.
With like 12 redundant backups for $1 million. Like this is insane. That being said, it's amazing. The most iconic scene of this movie to me is when you're seeing him from inside and he has his bloody feet up against the glass and he's kicking. That whole sequence, like, it's one of the high points for me. I love it. Did you, Austin, I have a question for you. Did you know about the gun taped behind his neck for the ultimate showdown with Hans?
No, I didn't.
Because that's also referenced in Brooklyn Nine-Nine.
Oh, probably, yeah.
But it's very clever.
No, it was good with the little Christmas like tape.
Very pop culture-y, iconic, if you will. Like it's referenced a lot.
Right.
2 bullets, shoots Eddie, shoots Hans. Hans falls out the window, almost pulls Bonnie Bedelia out. John saves her. He rubs his bloody face all over her face.
So gross.
And Jackie's happy. Then the end happens. Al shoots Carl. Bonnie Bedelia punches the reporter. Dwayne T. Robinson.
Dude, that reporter, we didn't even talk about him.
Yeah,
He's a piece of shit.
He's a piece of shit. And you wanted to have more comeuppance? Like, I'm glad she punches him, even though her punch was weak. Let's not even get started on that. And also, I like to imagine that he gets in trouble at his job because he left to go threaten Paulina to call the INS. And he missed the big building explosion. So I'm hoping he got in trouble at work for missing the big part.
I did have a problem with this because he's all like, oh, this is my story. I'm stealing the news van. If you don't give it to me, then I give him the news van and he goes down there and he's filming it. And then they find out that John McClane's family are in LA and then they leave to go interview them. And I was like, no. You stay on the scene. You send another reporter to the house. Like, you have a whole team. You have a whole crew. Leave some people at the scene. You don't leave the scene of where the action is happening. That was very, very dumb.
Yeah, and it is. Like, I'm sure as a journalist you can tell us how it actually works. It seemed very stupid. But I'm glad that he, in my mind, gets in trouble later. Because I hate that. Like, we hate that dude. He should be fired.
Yeah, and it sucks because at first he's the one who's like, oh, there's something going on there. I want to go cover it. So you think he's going to be like an okay reporter guy because he's the one who understands something important is happening here when the rest of the newsroom doesn't care. But then he's just a fucking loser asshole villain.
The worst.
Yeah.
So
they needed a way to have Hans realize that Holly is John's wife. But I could have done without the reporter being there at all. If he just flipped the picture frame up somehow, he would know. He didn't need an external reason to look at Holly's pictures. You know what I mean? Like, just get the reporter gone. He sucked.
Or even if they were gonna have it from the news, it could just be like they found out that John McClane's wife Holly worked there, and then on the newscast they put up a picture of John and Holly together. And then Alan Rickman is watching that and goes, wait a minute, that's the lady who sassed me earlier.
Yeah.
So are we done the movie?
I have a question. Yeah. This is more of a Bruce Willis question. I did notice before he got real dirty and gross that he had a real big scar on his shoulder. Is that Bruce Willis's scar or is that a character thing?
Right, I don't know that one.
Gonna quickly look that up.
I mean, he seems like the kind of dude who would have a bunch of scars.
So I Googled it.
Okay.
The scar on his right shoulder is from a surgery due to complications from a broken arm when he was 17.
All right. Well, it works. It fits.
It totally does. He's a rough and tumble dude. He's got scars. I do love that he has to use his shirt to bandage his foot and then he's shirtless.
Oh, no.
Big smile from me.
I think we're on to high points and low points.
Sure.
Great. I just want to tell you what I wrote. For high point, I wrote, I could sooner pick a favorite star in the heavens.
You Fucking loser.
The coolest thing you've ever said.
I'm sorry, I stole that from somewhere, but I can't remember where. But it's not true.
Yeah, that's very true for you. Austin, would you like to go with the more narrowed down high point, I can assume?
My high point's the music. I already talked about it, but it was really fucking good. The composer's Michael Kamen. I'm not sure how to pronounce his last name, but Kamen. But it was a really good score. I really liked how it played in with the action. I liked the classical music. This came up in Battle Royale as well.
But it wasn't the only thing you liked about it, even if it was your high point. I'm just wondering, purely for my own curiosity, this is your high point, the music, but is it the only thing you enjoyed, or did you?
It's not the only thing Okay, so I'm glad I watched it. No, I'm glad I watched Die Hard. I'm glad I finally have watched it. I understand all the references now. You know, it wasn't terrible. And that's what I anticipated going in. I didn't expect to hate it. I figured like it's Die Hard. Like I'm gonna have some enjoyment out of it. Like, and that's true. I was kind of just middle of the road on it. Like kind of like when we watched Battle Royale and you and I were just very like could go either way on it. It was kind of a similar thing where it's like I know this is a good movie. It's not my style, but like I'm glad I watched it.
Great movie in the case of Battle Royale.
I'm very happy with that because I knew this wouldn't be your type of movie ever.
Yeah.
But I love it so much.
I know. But I think, and again, I would just like to remind you, I am currying favor for future movies when I make you watch something that I love with my whole heart.
Noted. Mm-hmm. Writing it down in my book.
Yeah. I'll tell
Austin equals thumbs up.
A low point, I mean, just that machine gun scene, a little too long. We get it. They're shooting the glass. And then some of the explosions, like I said, that's when I bought my windshield cover, just browsing some Amazon deals. Just too loud, too long. This is also a fucking long movie. Jackie, I gotta say, you have lost all right to argue when one of our 90-minute movies is too long.
It is so funny because I've never had a concept of how long this movie is.
It's over 2 hours.
I can't believe, like, I never once looked at the running time until yesterday. I was like, I'm always so into it that it doesn't, I'm not aware of time passing.
It didn't feel as long as I kind of expected it to. We paused it to get snacks like halfway through, and I was like, oh my god, there's still like an hour and 20 minutes left.
Whoops. Yeah, you started at like 11, didn't you?
I know. I was like, I'm gonna I had to wait for Blake to get home. He wanted to watch it with me. He got home at like 6. We like had dinner. We're like watching The Crown. It was great. And then I was like, oh fuck, it's 9:45. I have to watch Die Hard. 8:45. I have to watch fucking Die Hard.
Yeah. Sorry about that.
Yeah. No, you're not.
No.
But it wasn't as repetitive as I was expecting it to be.
I'll take it.
I don't know specifically if I have a high point. I enjoy the movie. I like a lot of the action. I like a lot of the action sequences. But I think I might just put my high point down to Hans Gruber. Obviously, this is not a hot take, but he's just a fantastic villain. And he's so entertaining, and he's so watchable, and he's so Alan Rickman. And I like him a lot. So I think that's my high point. My low point, as much as Jackie is going to get annoyed, it's the end with the fucking Rolex. The symbol of her success is what she has to sacrifice to get back with her husband, because the moral of the movie is that women do not belong in the workplace.
You are reading way too much into that. This movie is saying women do belong in the workplace. Women should be successful and strong like Holly Gennaro. That's what it's saying.
I think the movie thinks
a watch is a watch.
That. I think the movie thinks it's saying that.
I think the movie thinks it's symbolizing things that it ain't. It's not the movie's fault if you read too much into it. That's not the movie.
I mean, it's not reading super deep or anything.
Yeah.
It's reading more than the movie intended, that's for sure.
No, the movie is saying it believes in traditional family values, which this working woman using her maiden name is going against the natural order of things. She's away from her children on Christmas Eve, and that's terrible.
You're insane.
That is my low point. Deal with it, Jackie. She should have been able to keep the Rolex.
It's fine. Your low point is something imaginary you made about the movie. I'm okay with that. So I don't even know if I can. Yeah, high point that this movie exists. Every single second of it is beautiful. If I had to pick a scene or sequence I liked, I'm gonna just say again when he's outside kicking the windows and has to push back and shoot and bust through the window. Everything's exploding. Love it. Very amped. And my low point is the thing that I mentioned really early on that I think is only something that annoys me is the terrorists humming and singing as a mark of their nonchalance about their crimes. And I'm just like, no one hums and sings as much. Like, am I wrong? Like, no one just wanders around humming. Like, Carl cuts the phone lines and then he just walks away humming. And I'm like, no, okay, we don't need this weird sound cue that he's a psycho. I just don't like it. It annoys me. That's it. It doesn't make a lot of sense why it would annoy me so much, but it does.
That's fair. I hate to ask, but do we have maybe a Cole's notes? Quotes.
I have.
Oh, no.
We don't need to recite the whole
quotes.
movie. Just Jackie, don't need to recite the entire film.
Okay.
That's probably like 6 of your 8 pages of notes.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Do you even need notes? Can't you just repeat this whole movie off the top of your head?
I could, but I was just told brevity is what we're looking for.
Okay.
I actually really like one of Holly's lines that was over. I think it's overlooked most of the time. But she says about Ellis, she's like, "Oh, he gets really depressed this time of year. He thought he was God's greatest gift, you know." I'm like, Holly with the burn. This is a Jake Peralta. He references this quote. He says, "I'm going to count to 3. There will not be a 4."
Nice.
Han says that to Takagi.
Yeah.
He says, "It's so stupid." I thought this was such a risque line when I was a child. But John is called the fire department and they're coming up and he's like, "Come on, baby, I'll kiss you, fucking Dalmatian." And I always think it's funny now because I'm like, he hates the fire department because he's a police officer.
Oh.
But in this case, he's like, "I'll take it." He says, "Now I know what a TV dinner feels like."
I did not understand that. I mean, I understood he's squished. I know, I get.
He's in foil, like a TV dinner.
Oh. I was like, what the fuck does that mean? We both laughed, and then I was like, wait, I don't get it.
I've written down so many quotes. "Welcome to the party, pal." "Yippee-ki-yay, motherfucker."
So, I will say, I was disappointed in that line. It was a lot more anticlimactic than I expected it to be.
Really?
Yeah. He just kind of like says it and walks away. I was like expecting it to be
kind
like a
of whisper it.
triumphant moment. Yeah.
He has to kind of whisper it because it's like, yeah, they're coming close to him.
I totally thought it was a triumphant
I
moment.
actually prefer it as opposed to yelling it. The way he's like, yeah, it's the way he says it, he delivers it more sharply. He's like, "Yippee-ki-yay, motherfucker." And then there's an Al Powell line where he's like, "Can't you see what's happening, man? Can't you read between the lines?" They say that on Brooklyn Nine-Nine. I said that specifically for Austin.
Thank you. I'm going to rewatch Brooklyn Nine-Nine, Cleanse the Palate. For like, what, the 7th time rewatch it?
I'm with ya. I'm watching it again too. I'll just stop there. I could keep going with quotes ever. I think I hit the major ones. It's a very quotable movie, as evidenced by Austin knowing some of these quotes and never having seen the movie.
Yeah.
So that's quotes.
Okay. The budget was about $28 million, and then worldwide gross was $141.4 million. The building of Nakatomi Plaza was actually the headquarters of the 20th Century Fox, which means they charged themselves rent to use the unfinished building. Also, I feel really stupid reading these because I feel like everyone on Earth knows like everything about Die Hard, and I'm just like, let me see what IMDb trivia has to say. So
most of the time you're educating me. I know a lot, so this one I'm like trying to find the kernels that you know that I don't know. I'm very excited.
Okay. Do you guys want to take a guess at a number?
Is it how many people die?
Well, I have that one, but I thought a more fun one would be how many tank tops did Bruce Willis have in various states of decay in his wardrobe?
25.
I was going to say 21. We're on a similar thought.
Yeah. You're not far off. It was 17.
Okay.
In various stages of distress. He donated at least one of them. I don't know which, but it's in the Smithsonian now.
I'm breaking into the Smithsonian National Treasure style.
It's probably like disintegrating. It was selected for preservation in the National Film Registry by the Library of Congress in 2017 for being culturally, historically, or aesthetically significant. This kind of makes me laugh. In the German version, the names and the backgrounds of the German terrorists are changed into their English forms, mostly into their like British equivalents. So Hans becomes Jack Gruber, Carl becomes Charlie, Heinrich turns into Henry. The new background also depicted them as radical Irish activists. Okay, Jackie, here's the crossover you didn't know you needed. So the cinematographer for this movie is Jan de Bont, which do we recognize his name? Jen's nodding. He is the director of Speed.
Oh.
And he, while making this film, he got trapped in an elevator, and this gave him the inspiration for the opening scene of Speed.
Oh my god, guys, they're so connected. I'm so happy. My life makes so much more sense now.
Right? Everything's just coming together. All the puzzle pieces are fitting in. You're forbidden now from taking photos directly outside Fox Plaza, I think it's called. So
It's not going to stop me.
Well, no, of course not.
Why are you forbidden?
I think just too many people were trying, so they just kind of I don't know. That's what IMDb tells me, Jen. I haven't dug too far into this.
Okay, I was just gonna say legally you can't forbid people from taking photos from the street.
It's probably on their property.
Yeah, I was like, you can't, like, you can kick them off your own
It said,
property.
it specifically said, directly on property, I think.
Okay.
So.
Because I'm like, if I'm on the sidewalk, that's public property.
Yeah.
I'm allowed to take the photo.
I imagine a lot
Jen's
of people
gonna
try to, get in the building.
Don't worry, Jackie. When we go down there so you can take your photos, I got your back. I'll fight the security guard for you.
You distract him. I'll run inside. And then I'll get arrested by the other security guards.
Then you're on your own.
One of the TV edits for the Yippee-ki-yay motherfucker line, I'm sure there's been a bunch, but one of them that I saw was, Yippee-ki-yay, melon farmer.
Oy. Not good. Not good.
Okay, this fact is for me, because this is one thing that I liked about it, is that a full 18 minutes go by before the first gunshot.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. Skip ahead. It's number 39 on AFI's Most Thrilling Movies and number 46 for Hans Gruber on Heroes and Villains.
Nice. He deserves higher, but I accept.
Also, when Hans Gruber falls, the stuntman dropped Alan Rickman on 2 instead of 3 to get a real reaction. And then the on-screen body count is 21.
Also, Alan Rickman has notoriously been very mad about the fact that he was dropped early.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I was going to say, I don't know if that's cool.
It's
no,
not.
He was really pissed.
There's so many things that directors do and shit to get real reactions, and it's like, you realize these are actors, right? That is their profession. They can act scared.
You just reminded me of this video that was going around on Twitter a little while ago where these guys were talking about Alan Rickman, and they were talking about Alan Rickman on set of this film. I forget what it is, but it was with Tim Allen, I guess, a movie that they did together at some point in the 90s.
Huh.
And they said that he had asked for a break between scenes because he was so worked up and upset he needed to calm himself down, and he went back to his trailer, and then Alan Rickman went, "Oh, I guess he just discovered acting." Which is cold as ice, Alan Rickman. I love it.
You don't fuck with Alan Rickman. You get that vibe, right? You don't fuck with him. He's a good guy, but he won't put up with shit.
Don't
cross him. Exactly.
That's all I got on trivia. So, Jen?
This is not a trivia, but as I was looking at my notes, I remember that I looked this up because I was curious about it. I couldn't find a reason for why they did it, but in the movie, they kept mentioning real life things, but not exactly. So at one point, the news anchors are saying that the hostages are going to get Helsinki syndrome instead of Stockholm syndrome, which I thought was weird. And then when Alan Rickman is on the phone saying that he wants his terrorist comrades around the world released, he names a couple of groups that are based on real life groups but under different names.
Right.
So he says the New Provo Front, which is the Provos is the provisional IRA I think I said that weirdly, the provisional IRA in Northern Ireland. And then he says Liberté de Quebec, which is the FLQ.
Yeah.
And then he said Asian Dawn, which is the one that everyone got confused by because they'd never heard of. And I also hadn't heard of anything named Asian Dawn or anything similar to that, but he says it's in Sri Lanka, so it's probably referencing the Tamil Tigers and the Sri Lankan Civil War that was happening at the time.
Probably.
But I just thought it was interesting that they were we're mentioning real world events, but changing all their names.
Huh.
I love that he name-checked Canada.
Yeah.
And he has a really great French accent.
Better than mine.
Better than most of us, I would hazard to guess. I have one trivia thing.
Sure.
Yeah.
I wanted to tell you a couple of, when it's in foreign markets, what the title of the movie is.
Oh, yes.
In Thailand, the movie was called Big Building Fight.
Amazing.
Accurate.
Yugoslavia, it was Die Like a Man. In Hungary, it was called Give Your Life Expensive.
You caught that, right, Jen?
Yeah.
What would I say?
Hungary.
Oh my god. Sorry, I have Yugoslavia and Hungary written right beside each other. In Greater Hungary, in Hungry. It was called Give Your Life Expensive. Stepped on that punchline, sorry. And in China, it was Ultimate Detective.
Interesting.
I'm pretty sure Thailand wins with Big Building Fight.
Big building fight, yes.
Yeah, just right to the point. So this movie came out in 1988, as we mentioned. I was 1 year old. Jackie was maybe a little older than that. Austin was not even close to being conceived. I think her parents were 1 year old as well. Like, that's maybe how that works, Austin's youth. But we actually recently did a 1988 film. Do we remember what it was?
Beetlejuice?
Yep. So, Jackie, we're hitting the highs and lows of the year for you. Your
For
favorite
real.
and your least favorite. But the highest grossing films that year were Rain Man, Who Framed Roger Rabbit, and Coming to America. Die Hard was like tied for 10th highest grossing. So like it did well, but not super well. And then the big Oscar movies that year was Rain Man again, Working Girl, The Last Emperor, and A Fish Called Wanda.
I haven't seen a lot of those, to be honest.
No, yeah, that's the
Rain
year
Man.
I haven't taken advantage of.
It was tied in 10th place with Naked Gun, Files from the Police Squad. Have you guys seen those?
I think so.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, good. I loved the Naked Gun movies as a kid. They're so
So good.
funny. Ratings?
Yeah.
You don't need mine.
10. Let me guess.
If there was anything higher than a 10, I would give it 100 times that because this movie is the best of all time. 10, 10, 10.
Okay, so this is where I had to go back to our back catalog. So I was like, okay, what have I graded other movies? Because I feel like I liked it more than some that we've watched, less than others. I was like, I think I liked Speed more, and then I realized that I gave Speed like a 10. So that checked out for me. So I'm gonna go middle of the road. I'm gonna say 5, which was better because now that we've talked about it, because yesterday it was like a 3, and then I've boosted it up the more I've thought about it. So I'll go 5. And then for quality, let's be generous. It was a 9. That score boosted up. It's so good.
The music is why, right? Quality for music, you're giving it higher
It
points.
was so good. Also, I caught the theme right away, so I'm amazing.
Music genius.
Mic drop.
Excellent. Yeah, I think this is an easy one for me as well. I'm giving it 8 for enjoyment, 8 for quality.
Nice.
It's not a perfect movie, I'm sorry, Jackie, in my world, but it's great. Like, it's a fun, enjoyable movie. I've got no major issues with it. But I'm stingier with my 10s. I don't want to just hand them out willy-nilly.
That's fair.
Yeah.
I think I'm very free with my 10s. Because when
You
I
are.
enjoy
I
a
like
movie, I enjoy it with like my entire being. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, we can see.
I love how much you love this movie.
Thank you, because I think it's off-putting. I think people generally do not like this about me, but that's okay.
No, I'm glad I saw it.
My friendometer's all green, baby.
Yeah.
Amazing. So much better than I was expecting. I'm very relieved.
What's our movie next week?
Oh, it's me next week.
Or we have to start worrying about the friendometers again?
Maybe. we're gonna do a musical set at Christmas. So I'm calling it a Christmas movie. We're doing Rent. Spoiler
We're gonna have
alert,
a lot to talk
not
about.
my favorite movie. Show's way better, but the movie's gonna have to do. So we're gonna watch it.
I'm excited.
Yeah, I haven't seen it in a really, really long time, so I'm excited to rewatch it. I gotta start doing my research now, but it's gonna be intense. Okay, cool. So we did it. We got through Die Hard. This was a long one, but we did it. We got there. We all survived. So join us next week. We're gonna be talking about Rent. And you can follow us on Twitter at I Hate Your Taste or on Instagram I Hate Your Taste Pod. We also have a website. It's IHateYourTasteInMovies.wordpress.com, and there's links there to our merch. Please leave us a review on iTunes or Apple Podcasts. It really, really helps. So if you like what we're doing, please leave us a review. And thanks so much for listening. Bye.